All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into the core philosophy of Jordan Peterson. And it really all kicks off with this pretty challenging idea. What if the very thing we're all chasing, happiness, is actually what's making us miserable?
So we start right off the bat with this really stark quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I mean, it just throws you right in the deep end, doesn't it? It's basically a full-on attack on this modern idea that we're somehow supposed to be happy, that we're entitled to it. But the argument here is that the first, most basic truth of life is suffering. And if that's true, well then, trying to build your life on a foundation of happiness is like building a house on sand. It's just not going to hold.
Okay, so that naturally leads us to the big question, right? If life is suffering and happiness isn't the goal, then what's the point of it all? What are we even doing here? If suffering is the default setting, is there any kind of antidote?
All right, so section 1, the danger of ideology. Look, when you're faced with a tough problem, like suffering, it's totally natural to want a simple answer, a quick fix. But what we're told here is that some of these so-called answers can be way more dangerous than the problem they're trying to solve. And apparently the most tempting, the most dangerous of them all, is ideology.
So what is an ideology, according to this framework? It's not just a set of ideas. It's defined as a simple idea that's all dressed up to look like science or deep philosophy. It claims to explain the whole world, all its complexity. And here's the key part. It offers a perfect solution. It's like a cheat code for understanding reality, and you can see why that's so tempting.
And this is where we see a huge split. On one side, you have ideology. It gives you this feeling that you've got it all figured out, that you know exactly what's wrong with the world and who's to blame. It lets you point fingers. But on the other side, you have what's called true knowledge. And that, well, that's a whole different ballgame. It demands that you first look inward, confront the mess and chaos inside yourself, and get your house in order before you go trying to fix the world.
Okay, so if ideology is the wrong map, what's the right one? Well, this philosophy proposes a totally different way of looking at reality. It's built on these two giant, fundamental forces that pretty much shape everything we experience. And those two forces are order and chaos.
Let's break that down. Order is, well, it's the known world. It's your schedule, your home, the rules of the road, it's security, it's predictability. Chaos, on the other hand, is the unknown. It's when you lose your job or when you explore a new idea. It's where all the scary stuff is, but it's also where all the new exciting possibilities come from. And the big idea here is that a meaningful life is lived right on that razor's edge between the two. Too much order and things get rigid, oppressive. Too much chaos and you're just lost in anxiety.
Now, to really get a grip on what order means here, we have to think way, way bigger than human society. We're talking about the dominance hierarchy. And you can see this even in creatures like lobsters. This is the natural sorting that happens in social groups. And get this structure has been around for over 350 million years. That's older than trees. So the point is, this isn't some human invention like capitalism or whatever. It's a fundamental feature of life itself that we've had to deal with forever.
And what's wild is that within these hierarchies, you see this same pattern emerge over and over and over again. It's called Price's Law. You might have also heard of it as the Pareto distribution. Basically, it means that a small number of people in any given area end up producing most of the results. Think about it. A tiny fraction of musicians create most of the hits you hear. A handful of authors sell most of the books. It's presented here not as good or bad, just a constant, predictable feature of how things are structured. Okay, so let's recap. Life is suffering, hierarchies are real, and we're constantly trying to balance between order and chaos. Yikes. So what are we supposed to do about any of it? Well, the answer proposed here isn't about changing the world. It's about changing yourself. The path forward is all about individual truth and responsibility.
And this next part is a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. It comes from cognitive psychology, and it's this. What you aim at literally determines what you see. I'm not speaking metaphorically here. Your goals, your values, they act like a filter for your brain. You are hardwired to notice the things in the world that are relevant to your aim and to ignore basically everything else. You might have heard of this famous experiment. It's a perfect illustration. Ever heard the question, did you see the gorilla? So in this experiment, people are shown a video of two teams passing basketballs, one team in white, one in black. And their job is simple. Just count how many passes the team in white makes. That's their aim. But while they're busy counting, a person in a full-on gorilla suit walks right into the middle of the screen, thumps their chest, and walks off. And the crazy part? About half of the people watching are so focused on counting the passes that they don't see the gorilla at all. They are literally blind to it.
It's a mind-blowing example of how powerful this is. What you aim at is what you see.
So if your aim is that powerful, if it can make you blind to a gorilla, then the most important thing you can possibly do is to get your aim straight. And where do you start? You start with yourself. You aim at setting your own house in order. And we're not talking about some grand abstract goal here. We're talking about the most basic, fundamental stuff you can control. Things like going to bed and waking up at the same time every day. Eating a solid protein-rich breakfast. The small things that stabilize your entire system. And this is a really important point. The idea is to treat yourself as if you were someone you are responsible for helping. This isn't about just doing whatever feels good in the moment. It's the opposite. It's about taking serious responsibility for your own well-being, the same way you would for your child or a parent or someone you truly care about. You do what's actually good for them in the long term, not just what makes them happy right now.
So you can probably see where this is all going. When you start taking responsibility for yourself, when you start telling the truth, when you aim at something genuinely good, you start to find that ultimate antidote to suffering. You stop chasing this flimsy thing called happiness, and you start building something much, much stronger. And that thing is meaning.
And this is really the heart of it all. Happiness. It's a feeling, it's fleeting, it's a fair-weather friend. The second a real tragedy strikes, that bubble of happiness just pops. But meaning is different. Meaning is like the bedrock under your feet. It's what holds you up when the inevitable storms of life come crashing down.
Now, here's a crucial distinction. Meaning isn't something you just stumble upon, like finding a $20 bill on the street. No, it's something you have to create. You build it. And how do you build it? By looking around, seeing what needs to be done, and voluntarily choosing to take on responsibility. By picking up the heaviest load you can possibly manage and deciding to carry it.
And when you do that, when you shoulder that responsibility, something amazing starts to happen. Your life starts to align. You begin to bring order to your own internal chaos. The past, present, and future all start to make sense together. Your past regrets can be redeemed, your present actions have purpose, and you're actively building a better future. That harmony, that alignment, that is meaning. And so, we're left with this final, really provocative question. It basically takes all these big ideas and turns them into a direct personal challenge for you. It's not asking what you think about all this stuff. It's asking you, what would happen in your own life if you decided to stop doing the things you know are wrong and instead aimed at the highest good you could possibly imagine? What kind of life could you actually create?